I've tried to think a lot in the third of my life about what I would want my children to have known about me. And I want them to have known that I spent most of my life teaching the Enneagram. And that I did that because I believed in its value and because I believed it would make the world a better place. And I'm here with you during this time to try to share with you that I think we can all make the world a better place. And don't you sit around sometimes and think, things are such a mess, and I don't have any idea how to fix that. I don't know what I could possibly do to make it better. And I think this journey is going to be a piece of your work in being in the world and making it a better place for everybody else. And I'm not sure anything we ever do here at the Micah Center or in our ministry needs to offer more than that. If you can come away from this time and understand yourself better, if you can understand the people that you work with and that you walk beside in life and that you live with better, if it helps you be more mindful of your behavior and more forgiving of the behavior of other people, then we will have done a mighty thing together. And I think we can do that. So I hope that as we journey together, every step will be a new uncovering for you of the things that you know but didn't have words for, or the things that you didn't know that anybody else knew. I know lots of things about you that you don't know that I know. And I love it when you're astonished and get a little weird about the fact that I'm naming you and you don't know how I know about you. And I really love it when I'm trying to help people find their number and they are acting all cool and everything while I'm teaching. And then I can tell when I hit their number because they either stop writing altogether or they kind of put their heads down a little bit. So be clear as we begin to go through this, that when you're learning the Enneagram, you're learning it from the parts of yourself that are not your favorite parts. One of the things I learned along the way is that we don't know ourselves by what we get right. We know ourselves instead by what we get wrong. And we particularly know our internal terrain by what we get wrong. So all the things that you want to cover up, I'm going to uncover because they're beautiful as they are. And the thing that we could start with that maybe will make you a little bit more comfortable is this. The best part of you is also the worst part of you. It all has to do with excess in behavior. And so you don't want to get rid of what we're going to talk about as we go on this journey. You want to wrap your arm around it and bring it along with you because it's also the best part of you. I have wanted to find new ways to talk about ancient wisdom since I learned it. Because I think there's a fine, small line or space between maintaining what's good from what's old and finding a way to make it relevant in our lives right now. And I think relevance can be overrated. So at times the Enneagram seems kind of simplistic and you think, oh, well, I do that, but I don't want to do it anymore, so I'm just not going to. And yeah, you're going to keep doing it, and then I'm going to teach you about it, and you're still going to keep doing it because that's the way you've managed life. So be good to yourselves while we're on the journey. Be kind and try really hard. This is a hard thing to do, but try really hard to work on you and not on somebody else. Like I pick up booklets sometimes when we're here at the center that people leave behind that have their notes in them. And every page with a number on it has lists of people. And that means that people were thinking, oh, I know one of those, and I know one of those. Just know that this journey's for you. And then after that, you can sure do whatever you want with the number that you think everybody else is. Having said that, you're going to name people in your head, so just go ahead and write it down because you'll be worried that you're going to forget it, and then you'll not hear what I say next. So just go with it. Just go with it, but be aware that what you're really listening for is you. There's a Zen priest whose name is Suzuki, and he said, when you try to understand everything, you will not understand anything. The best way is to understand yourself, and then you will understand everything. That's a lot. You know, those priests say things in just a little bitty amount of time that take me 6 or 7 paragraphs to say. But it's a lot to say that if you could just understand yourself, then you'll understand your relationship to everything that's happening. And that takes the pressure off of everybody else having to somehow fit into your life and your way of seeing. One of the fundamentals of personal growth or self-awareness or transformation is a word we use a lot now, is self-knowledge. And I think we have to start by understanding that this is not a linear journey, because the journey toward wholeness is usually circuitous. So you're going to go around and keep tipping your hat to the you that you kind of approve of and like, and you're going to have to tip your hat to the you that you find to be a little bit embarrassing and a little bit too much. And what we do during this time is identify things in ourselves that we would like to change, and then we make a plan, and then we set a goal, and then we may experience a moment of movement in the right direction. But it won't last long, because you've been behaving the way you behave since you were 5. So your way of seeing the world since you were a child doesn't change. And your way of understanding yourself in that world doesn't change. You just grow it up a little. And so as we keep growing, we can grow in one direction or another. And more often than not, we end up giving in to predictable, habitual, patterned behavior. The reality is that we don't get far without increasing our self-knowledge, and that's kind of the goal. Like, how are you going to know other people if you don't know yourself? And how are you going to understand who you are and who you are in relation to other people and who you are in relation to God if you don't know you? And the sad part of all of that is that we think we've already got this. People say to me, why would I want to know more about myself? And my answer, though it is kind of glib, is you don't know nearly as much as you think you do about yourself, and because it's helpful. Whatever progress we make, then we end up with a deeper understanding of ourselves, and a deeper understanding of ourselves means that we're better in every relationship, which for me is the goal. I want to be better in relationships. I found out years ago that when people who don't text much or who don't email much send me something, it's important to them. And there's a friend of mine from Fort Worth who is older than me, and about once every 2 years she sends me an email, and that email says, Suzanne, you should do this. Love, Ann. And the reason I listen to Ann, honestly, is because when she hugs me, her cheeks feel like my mother's. So when I get an email from her, I think, oh, yes, ma'am. And she sent me 4 mantras one Monday morning. And she said, you need to do something with this. And then she listed the 4 mantras. And I was fascinated that she would send to me, show up, pay attention, tell the truth, and avoid attachment or don't get attached to the results. And the reason I was fascinated is because I thought, I show up. And I'm pretty good at paying attention. And I tell the truth, which gets me in a lot of trouble. And I don't know what this avoid attachment thing is. That was my initial response. So I'm going to walk you through those 4 mantras, because if you do those 4 things on this journey, it'll be better for you and it'll be better for everybody that you journey with. Show up. Now that could mean several things. For our work, it means really be present. Those of you who are closer to my age, you remember when we were in elementary school and they used to call roll and you had to say present. And I can remember sitting up and saying that, believing that I was. And I didn't learn about presence until I started working with the mantras, because as it turns out, being present means being aware and tuned in And so you're going to need to be tuned in to me on a screen teaching you if you're not with me. And you need to be tuned in to what other people say and how they respond. And we are so easily distracted that actually showing up based on what it means here is a very challenging thing to do. So I would suggest that you take a break from showing up before you start the journey, so that when you're with other people and you're doing this work, you can be present to them for the 2 hours or more that it takes, and then you're good, and you can relax again and kind of dial in and out. Because a big piece of what you're going to learn on this journey is not just from me, but it's from the people that you're journeying with. And so if you go into it thinking that I'm the only person you need to listen to, you'd be wrong. Because actually, I know all the numbers, but I best represent just mine. And you'll hear little things from people who are other numbers that I would never know to tell you. So be sure that you're present to everybody and be present to yourself while you're there. Second, pay attention. Primarily to yourself. Now, for some numbers, that's really hard. I pay much more attention to other people than I do to myself. I'm much more interested in other people and what they're doing and what they're thinking. So I'm not too dialed in on just paying attention to myself. And that means I miss a lot about life and about me. And I don't understand my place unless I pay attention to myself. So I have to really, really work at that. Paying attention is tricky because you have to learn to observe yourself non-judgmentally. It's so incredibly hard because we're so hard on ourselves. So when you start to observe yourself, you're going to think of all the things about yourself that you don't like. You're going to think, I need to put my hair behind my ear right now, but I don't know if I should do it or not. And you're going to think, am I sitting correctly? Everybody else is taking notes. Should I have written that down? When you are distracted with that kind of judgment of yourself, you're not paying attention to yourself because you are deeper than all those things that I just talked about. And that's the you that I hope you're going to learn to pay attention to. That non-judgmental thing, you're just going to have to practice. Because you judge yourself, and I bet you're going to find that you judge yourself negatively a high percentage of the time. Third, tell the truth. Yeah, that's tricky. We got all kinds of stuff around the truth, right? I would say it, but I think it would be hurtful. I should share that, but I would be embarrassed. I don't want people to know that. The truth is really hard to come by, but I do think you can learn to tell the truth to yourself. And then I think you can learn to tell the truth in safe relationships. And I think you need to be careful about what the truth is, because if you picked up your image of yourself from the culture, that's not true. That's not who you are. If you pick it up from TV or from the person who is your number one critic, that's not who you are. You're more than that. And so you have to learn to tell the truth to yourself about how beautiful you are and about how wonderful you are and about how wonderfully made you are. And from that place, you can learn far more than you learn from not being good to yourself. And then avoid attachment. I had to change to don't get attached to the results. And I don't know which of these four is going to be the hardest for you, but I can tell you the hardest for me is don't get attached to the results. I'm all in on results. So if I do something and it doesn't go well, you know who I think is bad? Me. I would never blame you for not paying attention or not doing what you were supposed to do. I always think, I could have done that so much better. I shouldn't have said that. I should have said that, right? So I'm having to learn to back up from attachment to results because it keeps me from showing up and paying attention and telling the truth.